What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from Pink Tourmaline. And this video is about a topic that I've actually touched upon before. And it's something that is a very important concept, not just in terms of what's beyond this physical life, but it's something that's very important to me. I feel like in terms of things that I've been trying to do in my life. And part of the reasons why I think I've been successful at certain things in my life is this concept of ultimate responsibility. I've seen in my life that, especially if you're trying to become an entrepreneur, start your own business, in order to make things work, you got to take responsibility for everything. If you're going to engage in the blame game, say this person did this to you and that's why that didn't work, and you have that mindset versus a mindset of no, regardless of what externally is happening to me, I must find a way to make this work. I must find a way to get myself into a positive situation, and everything is on me, not what's being done to me. When you can adopt that mindset and mentality and that way of existence, that way of being, things seem to happen. Things seem to work. Things that I didn't even think were going to be necessarily possible in the things that I was trying to accomplish and achieve business wise suddenly happened almost instantaneously in some cases, in cases where I didn't even understand why it was happening. Call this a coincidence, but again, this is just my little anecdotal experience with this concept. But again, not only, even if you take away material success or different things like that, for the spirit, for the soul, for the mind to be at peace, I feel when you let things go that have bothered you, somebody did something to you, and you keep holding on to it. How could they do that? I've had times in my life where I felt like I've been wronged, and man, it just keeps bothering me. And I want to get my, I want to have that day where I can be like, okay, you did this to me. Now look at how things have transpired. You probably wish you didn't do that, right? Like you want to have that moment, and it's just it gets you nowhere. It's a fruitless endeavor, and I think it's that notion that when you want revenge or when you want things to be set right so you can show that whatever they made a wrong choice or something like that just for your own ego's sake, that idea of wanting things set right, I guess you could say, revenge, or another way to say it, or vengeance or something like that. It's a poison that you're allowing into your body. It's pointless. And when you can actually let things go and just accept responsibility for whatever things went wrong, maybe whatever piece that you played in that puzzle, it gives you a sense of relief. I'll give you a quick example, and then we're going to jump into this amazing NDE account that goes back and talks about this idea of ultimate responsibility, contrasts it to this notion of being in victim mode, where you feel like the victim of this person, that circumstance, whatnot. There's a partnership that I entered into that I thought was going to be truly transformative for my business in terms of reaching a larger audience. And this has to do with math education, math tutorial videos. And I'd partnered with a super large, massive online textbook platform. We'd signed a contract. They were 100% on board, and we wanted it to be, again, I asked for no money. I only wanted to be placed front and center on the platform because I felt like it would be massively beneficial for my business just from the exposure. And I was happy to do that. I then went out and completed videos. I mean, it took me a little over a year. It took me a very long, a lot of videos, a lot of hours. And throughout making the like a little over 120 videos or something like that, and I'd say the average length of them was each an hour. So I mean, this is a massive endeavor. The company then basically reneged on everything that we had discussed via phone calls, via emails. I mean, there's a long string of contact that I had with me and this company, basically explaining exactly what they were going to do. For whatever reason, they changed their mind and they decided not to go through and follow through with what they had explained to me. Now, I had a little bit of legal recourse because we didn't put the specifics, which was my mistake. This is what I accept responsibility for 100%. But we didn't put all of these specifics in the contract. So the contract was more vague than all of the numerous things that we had discussed after the contract was signed in terms of placement and whatnot. The reason why I thought they would 100% follow through was because I thought we were both doing it without any money exchange, from an altruistic perspective of just trying to make the best product possible for students and schools and whatnot. And I felt like we were on the same page. We were really aligned. This is after talking to lots of different companies trying to make something like this work for years. And when this happened, I could not believe it. because I literally thought we were 100% aligned in all these different ways. So I was upset for a long time. And then I finally had this moment of clarity where I was like, well, you know what I could have done, because when we did put a little legal pressure on them via the contract, they did what was the bare minimum in terms of the contractual requirements. So they did end up placing me on the website, but like not at all how we discussed. Okay. So they met the bare minimum of the requirement, and I thought about taking it further. I was advised not to by my attorneys because of the cost that it would entail, and then you still don't 100% know how things are going to unfold. Okay, so I was advised to let it go. And at the end of the day, too, what am I here for? I'm here to create. I'm here to teach. There's a lot of things that are my calling. Fighting people in court is not one of my callings, and I know that because I used to be an attorney and I left. Anyway, so I digress. So my point is, this is a little example where I remember when I finally was like, wait a minute, you know what? There are things that I could have done better to protect myself here. I want to put all the blame on them, say they're bad people, say they're untrustworthy, etc. That gets me nowhere. And maybe they had reasons that they had pressure from people, in different positions that said, you can't do this anymore. You can't follow through for whatever reason. We have other partnerships that are more important, that take precedent. Just back away. We're not legally obligated, whatever it may be. Okay. They may have had their reasons. I didn't put more in writing in the contract. And when I accepted that responsibility, strangely, like you might think this is counterintuitive, but it actually did give me a massive sense of relief, and it allowed me to move forward and not still think about how they wronged me and all this stuff. So anyways, that's my little example from my personal experience of this notion of ultimate responsibility being a massive valve for release. I also think having that same mindset will propel you towards your goals as well. So there's multiple benefits, but that's what I wanted to start with, my little intro. Now let's get into the mix. So this came up again in this amazing NDE account from a woman named Alyssa Russian. So I just included her bio here. This is via the Next Level Soul podcast, unbelievable YouTube channel. Alyssa Russian is a near-death survivor, internationally known energy intuitive and sound healer who's thought of as one of the world's most cutting-edge thought leaders on conscious life creation and embodying your divine self. Her breakthrough work for personal and planetary evolution can be found in recorded programs like Reality by Divine Design and the Miracles and Manifesting Portal and many online summits. Okay, so there's 3 clips now from this awesome interview that I wanted to share. One of them is related, obviously, to everything on this channel, but I just thought it was such a beautiful way that it described essentially my difficulty and with getting my head around a lot of at least some of the mainstream religions around the concept of hell, which is prevalent in many religions. I just finished a book on the 12 major world religions, and how it never made sense to me that like a temporary place of some sort of punishment or atonement or something like that, I could understand. But this idea of an eternal torment for a finite life always seemed illogical. And on top of that, when you couple that with the pivot point for going to a terrible place like this could be something as minor as simply believing or not believing in one particular person or deity or whatnot, that never made any sense to me. And again, I don't want this channel to be about attacking other religions or other types of faith, but I did think this was a very well put, simple but well put way of hitting this exact notion that's bothered me my entire life, growing up in my family and in our religion, and having so many friends in different religions and faiths as well. This is something that always confused me, and I thought this point right here hit that notion of like lack of logic in any other. There's no other way to put it, in my opinion, but like that seems to be central to so many mainstream religions. So let's check this out, and then I'll give you a couple more comments after we play the clip.
Remember when I was 12, we went to Thailand, and I remember the pastor saying, now we gotta help these people believe in Jesus, because if they don't, they go to hell. And I remember thinking, this is hogwash. Because here I am with these gorgeous people who are glowing from within. They're, the kindest, most magical people I've personally ever met. And he's telling me they're going to hell. And I called him out on it. And I said, really, Pastor, I can't believe that. And he's like, oh, no, it's true. And I said, at 12, I said, oh, but it's not. Right. And that was the moment I had to tap out of my religion, because I just couldn't believe it. It was such a break with a cognitive dissonant break with the reality that I couldn't believe that these people, and I refused to believe in a God that would send people there
because they were unfortunate enough to be born in Thailand. and not in America. Like, you know,
Right.
it's sorry, you didn't even
Right.
know about. And then the question is like, well, if you didn't know about Jesus, I forgot some guys, like I think it was a Buddhist once said, if I don't know about Jesus, would I still go to hell? And
Right.
then I think it was a missionary said, well, no, if you don't know about him, then you wouldn't have to go to hell. And it's like, well, why did you tell me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great point. So again, this just gets back to that notion. I just wanted to include it here because I thought it was such a well put description of exactly what I was trying to describe in I think a video or two ago that I made on this exact topic. Now, if we zoom, I think most people can recognize that when you explain it that way or talk about it that way, it seems illogical. Now you might say, well, hey, the logic is from upon high, our brains can't conceive it or comprehend it or understand it. But when it's so illogical, I think I mean, look, you could say that about anything, I suppose, but we engage and use our logic constantly in life, and that's how we survive and get through and make sense of things. I think we have our logic and cognitive abilities for a particular reason to try and understand this stuff. I don't think it's just like, okay, it's presented and we can't question it. But what I think makes more sense is the reason why faith, this idea of faith, got tied into whether or not you ascend or descend, probably has to do with a intentional decision of saying, like, we need this religion to pick up, we need people to buy into it, so therefore we're going to make the eternal fate hinge upon accepting, and if you reject it, there's big consequences. So it's almost like a fear that's would be my logical take as to how that got wrapped into it. I don't think that was probably anybody's intention or purpose when they were, let's say we talk about these amazing historical figures that were trying to preach positivity and good messages and good vibes. And I think these were things that were woven in after the fact once the religion began to take hold and to spread it. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Like I said, I don't want to dive too deeply into it, but I thought it was a very well put, nice point, illustrating something that I was trying to articulate previously. Okay, now she also has another great clip that kind of gets to the purpose of life. And again, my point in showing you this before we get to the last clip on ultimate responsibility and victim mode, which I think she just presents that really beautifully. And again, I think there's no downside on taking responsibility for everything in your life, even if you're like, well, that doesn't make sense for X, Y, and Z. Fine, but just from a practical standpoint, I think it's going to be empowering for anybody who takes on this mindset. But when we listen to this purpose of life, this is the point that I want to make. If you look across the spectrum of NDE, near-death experience folks, survivors who've come back, pretty much there's a ton of overlap around this message of life being a place of learning, Earth being a place of learning. Actually, Earth being in particular a place of rapid learning, because it is a difficult existence and a difficult life to be here, with everything that's going on the planet. So she hits that once again. So just to state this one more time, as I've talked about in multiple videos, it seems to be that the central theme of coming here is to learn, and to thereby, by learning via lessons, going through difficulties, experiencing pain and pleasure and joy and all the things that life is about, we can level up the vibration or the complexity, or however you want to frame it, of our soul and our energies. Check this out.
I believe that we're in multiple places all at once. Right. And that I believe that part of this journey here in human form is to unlearn a few things as a soul that may have been braided in to the larger experience.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that if we can come here and deal with the trauma, that because on the other side you get to informs the other side as well. So my current theory is we come down here to learn some lessons, but that also those lessons inform consciousness above. So it's a two-way street. It's not just a one-way thing that's happening here. So it's informing consciousness, it's expanding consciousness. My feeling when I was on the other side was that I'm hopeful I can articulate this well, that God consciousness, divine creator consciousness, prime creator, whatever you want to call it, it wants to be fully present in and through you. Meaning that it wants to be a two-part thing. Like, yes, there's the Alex consciousness, but Alex knows that Alex is a divine creator and you're always acting as such. And there's that desire. And here on earth, we haven't yet gotten to the place, many of us, where we can do that consistently 100% of the time. So what I think, it's less about the human experience here and more about, can God consciousness come through you, and can it hold itself as God consciousness all the time without going unconscious?
That's interesting. That's a very interesting point of view. I like that.
Yeah, it's my
Because
present one. It might change.
yeah, exactly. No, it's this, again, from my perspective, from talking to so many people about these kind of topics from different fields of life, it keeps coming back. This theme, this trend I keep seeing is that the body is so heavy, like you were saying. It's like a big giant coat, very, very thick coat, and it's difficult to even move around in. And the brain is this kind of heaviness on top of your consciousness. But when you are able to disconnect or quiet that, you become wider. Your awareness becomes wider. Hence meditation, even.
All right, so we'll pause it right there. So again, look, I'm even trying to process and articulate this in real time, and it's difficult to do it probably justice. But I guess what I'm taking from that is something it sounds something to me along the lines of raising our vibration so we can be better, like let the positivity flow through us more freely on this planet, be more vessels of whatever you want to consider the divine to be. And that's what it seems to me. But what I really like about this clip in particular, which goes back to the heart of this channel, is she said, that's my current theory for now. And again, this is what I want to keep championing on this channel, is this idea of flexibility and constant learning, as opposed to taking a doctrine or particular set of statements from like this person or that person and just like, this is it, this is everything. And instead of being a closed system, have it be an open system where we're continuing to learn and explore, because I believe there's a lot of merit to all of these stories and accounts, and they're coming through for a reason. And hopefully we can assimilate them and look at them and look for the overlaps, look for the similarities, because everybody's going to have different interpretations. But I think when we can see the similarities and the overlaps over and over and over, we're going to start to see these little beautiful fragments and shards of like pure truth of what's really going on, help us to evolve, help us to grow, help us to be better people. Okay, now we're going to get to the last clip, and this is the clip that comes back to the idea of ultimate responsibility, which I talked about for a long time at the beginning of this clip. So I'm just going to let it play. She's going to talk about responsibility, how important it is, and also how to get out of what she calls victim mode, and then we're going to close out. So this is really, really cool. Check this out.
That part of the wake up process that we're here to do, wake up and hold God consciousness or divine consciousness, is having some stuff happen where you have a breaking point. And your breaking point is, I'm no longer willing to live as I have been. And I get that there's a different way to live my life that requires me to take 100% responsibility for every single thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And that's a tough one, especially if you're a victim of abuse of any kind, which I have been. I'm a kidnapping survivor. So yeah, I know. So the thing of it is you have to start to then take responsibility. So here's what I would say is, if you feel like your life's not been going well for you, if you feel like you can never catch a break, if you feel like you're mostly checked out and not living in what I call the magic and miracle zone, where most of your life feels like, wow, this is amazing. If you're not there, likely you're in victim mode. And the only way to get yourself out of victim mode is to take responsibility for everything. And when you do that, you also get to take responsibility for healing your life, and then everything can change. But when I'm still blaming my doctors for getting me as sick as I did, when I'm still putting the blame, anytime you're putting blame outside of you, you just are never going to transform the situation. You're going to still be in that situation, and you're going to keep attracting more situations to prove you right. The universe proves your beliefs right, whether you like it or not. Like whatever you're currently believing, it's giving you again and again and again. So you can hopefully change those beliefs.
Okay. I like this for so many reasons. That, when she's talking, I'm trying to remember everything in my mind that I want to talk about. So number one, I just think it's such a beautiful message, because let's even say, for whatever reason, like you disagree, how could you take responsibility for this thing and that thing that was totally out of your control? Fine. But at least like from the standpoint of just trying to live a positive, proactive life where you're as happy as can be. I think if you think about it that way, or at least think about, like, forget about what the things that have happened to me, but what can I do? What's in my control? It's that it goes back to the serenity prayer. I want to be able to distinguish between the things I can control and the things I cannot, and to be able to decipher accurately between those two. So if you get into this mindset, this beautiful positive mindset of like, fine, things are happening, I've been through things, but I'm going to accept responsibility and try and push forward in whatever way I can. It just is, it's like empowering, and it steers your mind away from these negative thoughts that, and I believe, build upon themselves. I've seen it in my brain all the time. If you think about something that bothers you, 5 minutes later you're still upset, but you're thinking about something else that bothers you. So you go down this weird vortex of negativity, and who wins? Nobody wins there. The other thing that she does mention is this idea of choosing everything and having responsibility for even these bad things that seem totally out of our control. The only way I can reconcile this, because of course that feels unfair, right? I was born into an amazing family, and I've had a lot of advantages in my life, and I know that, and I'm aware of that. And so it does seem quite unfair that I got to be born into this life, and other folks have way more struggles or difficulties than I do. I guess the only way that I can reconcile all that, because I used to feel like that it was quite unfair. But that's number one of the reasons why I think the notion of reincarnation balances that all out, where we experience multiple lives and identities for particular purposes, makes a ton of sense, versus somebody just having a bad draw of the deck and having born into a terrible life, and that's their one experience. Versus, okay, each function, each life, and each set of difficulties that come with that life are part of an extreme learning process based on your individual soul, number one. But number two, if that's the case, if these lives are meant to be vehicles for learning, while it's not like you're the one that caused the negative things to happen to you, but my presumption is what she's getting at, and what other NDE folks have said, is that you're choosing everything ahead of time. So even though other people still did bad things to you, or hurt you, or reneged on deals or whatnot, this is part of what you have agreed to and wanted to experience when you entered into this life for the betterment of yourself. So that's the way that I get my head around it, just from listening to tons of NDE accounts, and of course reading Journey of Souls. I'm onto another book now that goes through a bunch of NDEs via hypnosis as well, as I continue to try and get my head around this massive topic. But there it is. So that's my video on ultimate responsibility part 2, if you will. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it, what else you guys want to hear. Like I said, I'm going to be making way more content on this channel, and I'm so excited and feeling so motivated, because I feel like it's feeding my soul, and I feel like it's making me feel as though I'm doing part of what I'm supposed to be doing in this particular life. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.